A messenger is hacked down mid-gallop, his final shouted order swallowed by the roar of steel and screaming. The Empire's left flank crumbles, not from lack of courage, but because the commander's command never reached them.
They can't hear. The orders are dying before they reach anyone. In my old life, I shaped sound, concert halls, sonar systems. Here, it's just noise and death.
A riderless horse bolts through the broken line. The Empire will lose this day because no voice can carry. Yusei turns from the hilltop. He doesn't run, he walks toward his tent, a cold calculation forming. Inside, he snatches a piece of charcoal and begins to draw. Not a battle plan, an acoustic diagram. The design is crude, but the principle is clear. A tuned bronze throat to project sound across the valley like thunder.
I will build it. The next battle will not be lost to silence.
The junior musician had glimpsed a truth no general saw. That sound, not steel, could decide the Empire's fate. In a borrowed forge tent, Yusei hammers scrap bronze into a rough horn. His first prototype, crude but carefully tuned. At a secluded ravine, he lifts the horn and blows, his breath steady. The sound rips through the air, not a musical note, but a command, echoing from the canyon walls with startling clarity. By the time it fades, camp musicians have gathered on the ridge, their laughter carrying down to him, but one listener doesn't laugh. Commander Ren pushes through the crowd, his scarred face unreadable.
What was that noise, musician? It sounded like a dying bull.
That bull can carry a commander's voice across 2 miles. It can turn chaos into coordination.
Pretty words. But I've watched armies collapse because a signal never arrived. Can your toy survive battle? I'll get you an audience with the War Council. Speak well, because if this fails, it won't just be your head.
Let it be my head then. Better than watching another left flank dissolve into screaming meat.
Yusei enters the war tent, crude horn in hand. Generals sneer.
This horn projects distinct tones across a battlefield. Each tone signals a command: advance, hold, retreat.
A scarred general scoffs that no trinket can replace mounted couriers.
Mounted couriers die. My horn is not killed by an arrow. Its voice reaches every soldier at once.
A second general demands proof. Has it been tested in actual combat?
Silence. We have lost too many to broken communication. If this contraption gives our commanders a voice, I will hear it.
Give me a forge team and 10 days. I will build horns that coordinate your army from hill to valley.
You have 7 days. Fail and answer for wasted resources. Succeed, and you just might save this empire.
7 days. The casting alone will take 3. No sleep then.
Yusei bows and exits. Outside, Commander Ren leans against a post, his scarred face unreadable. He was listening for 3 days. Yusei barely sleeps. The forge crew pours glowing bronze into a mold taller than a man. When the casting cools, Yusei traces the horn's throat with his fingers, feeling for imperfections in the tuning. Meanwhile, Lyra plays a somber melody on her wooden flute at the edge of the camp. She sees Yusei pass with the enormous horn.
Once, they respected my music. Now a junior with a brass bullhorn steals the Emperor's ear.
On the 6th day, Yusei orders the horn carried to a hilltop. Soldiers watch as he draws a deep breath. The blast hums like a living thing, rolling across the valley. A distant flagman raises his banner. Signal received.
2 miles, clear as a bell. That ridge was 3 miles yesterday. Now the enemy will hear nothing but our precision. It works. Let the enemy generals keep their silence. We'll keep the voice.
But through the doorway of the musician's tent, Lyra watches Yusei's celebration, her fingers clawing into her own tunic. The giant horn stands ready. So does a rival. At dawn, Yusei's horn crews take position on 3 hills. The valley floor churns with enemy steel. The first horn blast, a low, urgent tone, flutters banners but tangles the imperial line in hesitation. Yusei signals a repeat. This time, Veterans recognize the drill and plant their shields in unison.
Sound the charge. They need to trust the horn.
The third blast rolls like thunder, and the Imperial army surges forward with shields locked. On the hilltop, Yusei watches the ripple effect, a wave of coordination across the killing field. Horn calls redirect the cavalry to the flank. The enemy center crumbles by sunset. Enemy banners fall. Imperial soldiers swarm Yusei, lifting him onto their shoulders, chanting, "Sound, Sorcerer." At the Victory Assembly, the general claims he formed the signal course himself. No mention of an engineer.
So the horn is mine, but the glory will wait. They still don't see the sound itself as a weapon.
In his workshop, Yusei tests a horn tuned to infrasonic dread, felt in the bones, not the ears, deployed in the next battle. Enemy ranks shattered before contact, soldiers clawing at their heads. 4 campaigns ended in triumph. The system became doctrine, but Yusei's name remained absent from reports.
They see me as a tool, but sound is a weapon beyond their imagination.
Emperor Varus summoned him to a private chamber, face lined with unease.
Your horns broke men's spirits without a blow. Is this sorcery, engineer? Answer.
Only resonance, Your Majesty. Low frequencies that unsettle the gut. No sorcery, physics.
Then you are chief acoustician. But remember, if your physics fails, the court will call it heresy.
So the title comes with a blade. One mistake, and I am a witch burning.
He left the chamber, the Emperor's fear clinging to him like incense smoke at every signal tower. The soldiers now knew the horns were his. They whispered a name the court forbade. Sound, Sorcerer. The Emperor heard the whispers and brooded, but far across the border, General Kale had his own prize. On his table lay a captured Empire horn, polished and silent.
My musicians blow, louder, softer, faster, but the horn remains dumb. It mocks me.
He unrolled a war map, fingers stabbing at territories lost to this sound magic.
It's not the metal, it's the mind behind it. I need a traitor who knows the tones.
A spy slipped into the tent and murmured a name. A band woman with a white-hot grievance against the Empire.
Bring her to me. Grievance opens gates that gold cannot.
He slid a purse of sapphires across the table. Payment for sedition. The horn remained mute on the table, but the trap was now set. In the musician's tent, a shadow pushed through the flap. The spy with sapphires and a promise.
They all see me as a spare part, but this general knows a musician can be more.
She took the purse, and her voice came out empty, as if already gone.
Tell him I'll bring the real weapon, the knowledge in my head.
She slipped into Yusei's workshop, silent as a melody, and rolled the schematics into her tunic. Passing Yusei's tent, she glanced back. His lantern still burned, and walked into the dark. By dawn, her horse crossed the pickets, and a note was left on her empty bedroll. Find me where the stone dog bites the river. Morning light leaked into the workshop. Yusei found her desk bare, tunic neatly folded, but the horn diagrams gone.
Lyra, she understood the tones. She knows how to make them sing.
The empty tent told the truth before any spy report. The enemy would soon have a voice. Yusei burst out of the workshop, the empty tunic still in his hand, and found Ren at the guard post.
Desertion or something worse. Speak.
Lyra didn't just run. She took the horn plans to the enemy. If they build even one replica, they can sow chaos in our ranks without a single blade.
Then, we're already bleeding.
Before Yusei could reply, a horse lathered with sweat burst through the camp lines. A scroll from the Greywash garrison. Enemy horns sounded Imperial retreat. Our flank scattered. They have our voice.
Lyra taught them the basic tones, but not the cipher. The mimicry is crude, but it works. Commander, I can build a horn that cancels theirs, but I need full Imperial resources and a month, maybe less.
Yusei found the Emperor in his war tent. The stolen paper crumpled on the table.
Do it. But if this fails, I'll have your head and her head on the same pike. Understood.
Your Majesty, Lyra stole the tones, not the cipher. She can mimic a retreat call, but she can't wire the true command sequence.
Then why did our flank break at Greywash?
Because chaos is its own weapon. Even a wrong horn can scatter men if they expect a signal. But I can build a horn that emits the same frequency out of phase, canceling theirs entirely. When two identical waves meet crest to troph, they annihilate. Silence.
Silence born from noise? That sounds more like sorcery than your physics.
Call it what you will, but give me the forge, and I'll give you victory.
You have your forge, Chief Acoustician. Fail, and I'll have your head and hers.
Fail, and we both die. I need the exact frequency of that stolen horn, calculated from the mold dimensions. I built them a voice. Now I have to build a silence.
In the cluttered workshop, Yusei worked through the first night, the candle never extinguished.
If the mold throat was 18.3 inches and the bell flare 32, the fundamental frequency is 109 cycles per second. Go to the forge and bring me the casting log for horn 3. I need the throat diameter exactly.
When the assistant returned, Yusei cross-referenced the log against his own notes, and a cold understanding settled in.
These frequencies, the stolen horn's note, is a perfect fifth below our command horn. If I create an identical wave out of phase, it will nullify entirely.
He began a new schematic. The design different from any horn, a barrel shape with a secondary chamber for phase inversion.
I'll need bronze alloy matching the original's density perfectly. Otherwise, the frequency shifts and the cancellation fails.
He sent orders for rare alpine copper, but the quartermaster balked without the Emperor's seal. Another day wasted.
Every hour I wait, Kale refines the mimic. The counterhorn must be cast by week's end, or we'll meet them with nothing.
The prototype design was ready, but construction lagged behind the ticking clock. With the Emperor's seal, alpine copper arrived. Yusei watched the casting, the molten metal swirling into the barrel-shaped mold. Engineers grumbled that the phase chamber was nonsense, but Yusei barked at them to follow the design exactly.
A finger's width off in the phase chamber, and the wave inverts to noise instead of silence.
Day after day, the horn took shape, a massive bronze barrel with a secondary cavity, coiled like a serpent. Emperor Varus arrived at the build site, his retinue waiting outside. He stared at the monstrous contraption.
This thing. It looks like no horn I have seen. Will it work?
It will emit a sound identical to the stolen horn, but in reverse phase. When they meet, the enemy horn becomes a mute stick of metal.
I still smell sorcery, but if it silences Kale's mimic, then build it faster.
By week's end, the counterhorn stood complete. Bronze gleaming, a team of blowers trained to its back pressure.
It is built. Now the real test. Can it survive battle sabotage and a traitor's cunning?
At a prepared field, Yusei faced the counterhorn toward a replica of the stolen horn. Two brass monsters aimed at each other.
Blow the stolen horn first. Let its note fill the air.
The stolen horn's tone rolled across the field. Loud, insistent, and soldiers braced for the false retreat command.
Now the counterhorn. Phase inversion. Engage.
The counterhorn's blast met the enemy note. For a heartbeat, both tones warred. Then the stolen horn fell silent mid-breath.
Destructive interference. 109 cycles. The stolen horn is a mute stick of metal now.
Cheering erupted among the Imperial soldiers. A rider galloped to the Emperor's tent. Moments later, orders came. Deploy at dawn. But that night, a shadow moved across the guard line. Silent as a held breath, at the horn platform, an iron wedge was driven into the phase chamber. Bronze shrieked, then cracked. The chief blower fell, arm broken.
The spy is still inside the camp, and now the counterhorn is dead metal.
By lantern light, the crack in the phase chamber was a spider web. One wrong pulse, and it would shriek noise instead of silence.
How bad?
Phase chambers split, blow now, and it screams chaos, not canceling anything.
Ren doubled the guard and lit every torch. No more shadows.
I need 6 hours to seal it. The enemy won't wait.
Before dawn, Yusei spotted a shadow too fast between tents. He shouted, but the dark swallowed it. At sunrise, the horn still wept a whistle where the patch was thin. It needed a proper cast, not a field patch.
The generals demand that horn on the field now. They call waiting treason.
Call it treason then. I won't send a broken horn that could deafen our own men.
With the wedge in his hand, Yusei chose truth over orders and kept working. The patch hardened under his torch, a scarred weld of bronze, ugly but solid. The whistle stopped.
It will hold for one battle, maybe. But if we don't deploy now, there won't be a battle to lose.
A scout's horse thundered up the hill, foam on its mouth. The enemy was deploying a full army on the west ridge. Yusei climbed the signal platform and stared across the valley. Then his mind caught fire with a new geometry.
Lyra gave them the tones, but not the cipher. She can't have known the encryption pattern. If we cancel their horn, and then broadcast false orders in our true cipher, their own ranks will tear themselves apart. Commander, we'll silence their horn first, then give them a false retreat call in our cipher. Their men will flee while our own ignore it.
Risky. If our soldiers mishear, they could rout too.
They won't. They know the cipher. The enemy only has raw tones. It'll be chaos for them, not us.
He turned to the horn crews. Cancel sequence first. Then flood the valley with a forged withdrawal in the cipher. On my signal, across the valley, Kale stroked the stolen horn, grinning. The spy had promised the Empire's voice was broken. He did not know the cipher.
Blow the horn. Let their lines shatter like they did at Greywash.
The stolen horn's tone rolled across the valley, and Imperial soldiers tensed, remembering the panic at Greywash. But Yusei raised his hand. On the signal platform, the patched counterhorn roared to life. The two tones met. For a heartbeat, they warred. Then the stolen horn fell mute, a dead trumpet in its blower's hands. Imperial horns answered, clear and coated. Infantry locked shields and pressed forward, cavalry sweeping the flanks.
Now the false retreat. Let them hear a cipher they think is real and break themselves.
A mournful withdrawal call echoed in cipher. The enemy soldiers, already rattled from silence, heard it and began to fall back.
What? No. Hold. It's a trap.
But panic is louder than any voice. The enemy line wobbled, then broke, soldiers fleeing into their own reserves.
The trap is sprung, but the bull is still thrashing. Don't celebrate yet.
On Yusei's signal, the infrasonic horns poured their dread into the valley. A throb felt in the bones, not the ears. Enemy soldiers staggered, gripping their skulls. The false retreat call now felt like a death sentence.
Rally. You dogs. It's only noise.
But Imperial cavalry thundered in from both sides, a pincer closing on the enemy's crumbling center.
Keep the dread horns on their center. Do not let a single unit reform.
The enemy line shattered. Men threw down weapons and ran, trampling banners.
Fall back to the river. We can still.
The bull is running now. I'll chase him, and I'll find her.
Imperial pursuit, horns blared. The valley filled with the sound of victory, a thunder of hooves and bronze. The Empire had won, but Yusei's war wasn't over. The traitor and the general still breathed. Commander Ren's sword halted at Kale's throat. The rival general knelt in the mud, eyes wild, hands bound.
This isn't war, it's witchcraft. He canceled my horn?
Yusei rode past the captives, scanning the fleeing enemy for a dark braid and a musician's tunic. Near a broken supply wagon, Lyra threw off a soldier's cloak and drew her flute like a dagger.
She's not running. She's been waiting for me.
You won. Are you here to gloat over the Sorcerer's prize?
Number, I am here to ask why you sold us for sapphires and a title.
Because you took everything. The Emperor's ear, the glory. I just wanted to be seen.
I understand the hunger. It almost consumed me once. but you chose to feed it with treachery. She's lost, just like I almost was. That could have been me.
Emperor Varus rode onto the battlefield, his eyes sweeping over the shattered enemy line, the captured general, and the silent, stolen horn.
You say, the soldiers have whispered a name since the first victory. Today I make it law. I name you Sound, Sorcerer of the Empire. You shall have lands, a seat on the War Council, and the resources to build a permanent doctrine.
A roar erupted from the imperial ranks, not the formal salute of court, but the raw cheer of soldiers who had survived because of Sound.
Sound, Sorcerer. It's not a whisper anymore. It's a brand.
Court scribes climbed ladders to his tent, painting genius in bold imperial script above the entrance.
That word used to mean a clever design on parchment. Now it means a responsibility heavier than any horn.
Yusei stood before his tent, the plaque drying in the sun, soldiers saluting as they passed.
I didn't build for glory. I built so no messenger would die unheard again. I'll wear the name, but I won't let it wear me.
A former barracks became a classroom. Yusei stood before young recruits, pointing at diagrams of horn construction and wave cancellation.
Sound is not magic. It's physics. Learn the physics, and you'll never fear an enemy horn again.
Later, at the prison block, a guard unlocked an iron door for Yusei. Lyra sat in the corner, unchanged.
Come to admire your handiwork, Sorcerer.
I brought you paper and ink. You could still teach. Not all is lost.
I won't be your charity. The world chose you. I won't play a footnote.
She's right in one thing. The hunger hasn't left. It growls in my quiet moments. I must starve it.
He left the cell, his shadow stretching long down the corridor. The echo of her voice stayed.
I'll build a school, a doctrine, and a cage for my own ambition. She is the warning I cannot forget.
The school bell rang, and the first class of Imperial acousticians began their training, stone by stone. The Empire raised signal towers along every border mountain pass. Yusei stood on a completed ramp, watching crews haul a horn into place, a familiar shape against the sky. In that moment, a ghost from his other life surfaced, a young engineer in a Tokyo office, studying acoustic diagrams.
I designed concert halls so sound would caress. Now it stops armies. The same physics, just a different frequency.
A deep horn blast echoed down the line, testing the mount. It was a command code, but today it sounded like a hymn. The Empire would sleep safer now. No order would die unheard.
This is my real legacy. Not the title, not the plaque, but the silence after a battle when the horns have worked.
He turned from the tower, the genius plaque waiting back in camp, but his mind was quiet.
That other life is gone, but its knowledge lives here, protecting people. That's enough.
The wind carried a final horn note as he descended, and the Empire stretched out below, ready to listen. Alone, Yusei climbed a grassy slope, the campfires below becoming blemishes of gold in the darkening world. The ridge was silent except for the wind, until a single horn tone floated from the signal tower. Low, resonant, unhurried, he closed his eyes and let it wash over him. No code this time, just resonance. And for the first time since his death in a Tokyo stadium, Yusei felt no disjoint between his two lives.
That sound is me now. Not an echo of the past, not a tool, my own voice.
The horn faded, but its presence remained, like a held note in the air.
I was an engineer who shaped silence for concert halls. Now I am a sorcerer who shapes sound for life.
He turned from the ridge, the camp below a blanket of quiet, and walked down under a sky that was no longer foreign. Somewhere in the distance, a tower answered another tower, and the Empire hummed with the sound of his legacy. The Sound Sorcerer smiled, and for the first time, the silence that followed was peace.